everyone. This is Carmina Covarrubias. Welcome to our Alpha Training Center. We live in a world of constant change. Disruptive technology, new business models, faster time to market. Nowadays, business agility is a must. Be agile, scale up, stay lean. These words are Michael Stump's Lean-Agile experience. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
How are you?
Nice to meet you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's an honor to have an expert like you here in Mexico, sharing some of the knowledge that you collect all over these years of experience all around the world and all the challenges that you confront with all the safe implementations.
Yeah. It's really exciting to travel the globe and share all those stories with now people here in Mexico. So I'm really excited to be here and share some of my experiences.
Welcome to Mexico and welcome to Alpha.
Thank you very much.
Just for our audience to remember, Michael Stump is Scale Agile Fellow and Vice President, Partner, Development and Enablement. Michael is a executive coaching, traveling all around the world, mentoring executives in safe practices. His experience scales, transforms, and changing in Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific region, North America, and Latin America. Amazing.
Around the globe.
Yeah, since we are in a live session, please feel free to send us your questions through the platform. Okay, Michael, let's start then.
Okay.
We cannot wait anymore. The first question is related to strategy. Scale Agile framework aligns technology and product development, operations, maintenance, but what about marketing and finance and the human resources, all the organization areas? We should include them. So strategy aligns business agility.
Yeah.
So, according to your experience, could you share us some lessons learned?
So I think one of the biggest challenges is really the disconnect from the strategy to the execution. And that's where SAFE comes in and provides alignment across the whole organization to deliver end-to-end value. Agile is coming a lot out of the software and IT industry, but it actually can be used everywhere. And that's what we see now, organizations starting more in the IT technology background, but then expand into different areas like marketing, like sales, like human resources or people operations, and really change the focus of being customer-centric, so who is consuming the product, the service we are delivering, and what are the steps to get there. And for example, at Scale Agile, we are using SAFE in our company. We'll probably talk later about that a little bit more. So everybody is involved, sales, marketing, finance, human resources, so everybody, and I think that's very important to create this alignment across the organization.
Right, I couldn't be more agree with you. Alignment, it's one of the core values of Scale Agile.
Absolutely,
framework.
and it's also one of my favorites. So we have program execution as one of the core values, build-in quality, transparency, because only if you see the challenges that are there, then you can improve it, and alignment, because if you see organizations that are really aligned, they're walking in the same direction, they have a common understanding, that's creating the performance and productivity that a lot of organizations like to have then.
Yeah, always a transformation journey is a challenge.
Oh yeah, it's never easy.
I know. Okay, good. Let's move on. With all your experience in we say the countries like India, China, Japan, New York, Zurich. Which are the key similarities and differences about what is currently happening in Latin America and what you've seen in other parts of the world?
Yeah. So I like to start with a quote from Edward Deming. A common disease that afflicts management the world over is the impressions that our problems are different. A lot of countries I'm going, or companies, but we are different.
Yeah.
And of course, every company is different, but the principles and practices behind are the same. So when we look at similarities, coming back to your question, the goals are typically the same. How can we deliver value faster to the customer? So time to market is one of the similarities in all the markets around the globe. Better quality, employee engagement, because it's harder to find good people that can support your organization. Predictability as well. So I hear a lot of, we need to be more productive. But how do you measure productivity? So that's challenging for a lot of organizations, and you always want to have more productivity. So the question is maybe more when I talk to the executives, I need to be more predictable, that if I'm telling to my customers or to the market, we are delivering that at this point of time, that I can then deliver and I don't have the delays. And so those are similarities across the globe in all the markets I talk to. Other similarities are all the challenges which are there. So in SAFE we talk about we need to train everybody that they know what they are supposed to do in this new way of working. And in all the organizations I hear across the globe, it's really hard to find the time to train everybody. So that's the same in the US, in Europe, Latin America as well. Even more challenging, leaders, executives need to be on board as well, and you know that how important that is for the success. Leaders cannot come to a 2-day training.
Yeah, celebrities.
Exactly, really hard. So everybody thinks it's easier in a different country. It's not. It's the same challenge all over the world, getting leaders into training and helping them to understand, also taking away some of the fear what this new thing is, and that's also a similarity. So now you ask about differences as well. What is different in the Latin America market? And I would say the delay. When we look at the markets, US was the first one that was moving with scaling agile, moved over to Europe, and Latin America, Mexico is a little bit behind there in that transformation journey. However, picking up really fast at the moment because the whole world is changing. The environment is changing, as you said at the beginning. So that's where I think that's where some differences are, a little bit behind. However, now picking up really fast, and that's exciting to see all the results now of what is happening.
And how do you think that we start a little bit late than in Latin America?
I don't know the reasons why. It's certainly experiencing some new stuff, having success in the old way of doing, and maybe feeling the pain a little bit later. Because what we see when organizations are changing, there is one part, there is a pain, there is a problem.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not easy to change, or then there are some very proactive leaders. And that's what I see more and more, especially here in Mexico, leaders that think, maybe we don't have a problem right now, but we'll have a problem in 2 or 3 years. So now we need to change the way how we work to be ready to adjust to all the challenges that are coming in future, and that's the interesting part.
It's an exciting, ongoing journey.
It is, and I think it is an ongoing journey. It's not a project that starts and finished and then you are transformed. It's a different way of working when you're working in a lean, agile way or achieve business agility. The environment is changing, and you want to have this learning organization as an executive that you can adjust to wherever the customers are going.
Yeah, it's continuous improvement,
That's
always.
a big part, exactly.
Yeah, never ends.
Exactly.
Never ends. Okay, let's move forward. In Mexico, we have some organizations that are adapting quickly, as you told us,
Yeah.
Scale Agile framework. Some of them are related to financial services or software development, as you mentioned. The question would be, could you say that SAFE is for everybody? I mean, what kind of projects or type of organization could benefit from what SAFE has to offer?
Mm-hmm. So when you look at the history of Agile, it's coming out of the software development industry. However, my personal experience was most of the time outside of IT and software, really running business. And it can apply everywhere. Yes, of course, it's at the moment a lot in financial services organization or software development. By the way, a lot of banks or insurances, they have a massive IT department. So in some countries, banks are the largest software development companies because just they need the infrastructure. So they have a lot of need. But what we see now, it's going really across all the industry. And especially government organizations are using SAFE as well. Hardware building, aircraft manufacturers, car manufacturers. It's really across all the different industries. And that's the interesting part about Agile and SAFE in specifically. It works end to end. And I really believe that there will be no IT department anymore in a couple of years. Yeah. It's about value streams.
Yeah, it will be.
The customers, right? So the customers want to see value. How do we deliver that value? And what are the skills that are needed in creating that value to the customer? And it will break down these organizational silos. I think going back to your question, does it apply everywhere? I use our own company, Scaled Agile, as an example. We are not producing software. We are not developing code. We are an IP, intellectual property company, deliver training material, have the framework, support partners like you around the globe, and we apply SAFE internally with everybody. So SAFE is the operating system for Scaled Agile, the runtime system. That's how we operate our business. And finance, sales, human resources, everybody is involved in that. We do the planning together, and that creates that alignment and energy, which I think a lot of companies are benefiting from. The key point of where SAFE is really designed for is organizations where 50 plus people are working on the same product, solution, or service, where a big group of people needs to work together. So that's the sweet spot as a starting position to use SAFE, but it's really across all the industries.
Thank you. It's very interesting to hear about what options and possibilities SAFE has to offer.
Yeah, I think it's about the challenges, and that's one of the questions I ask whenever I go to a new company, and you do the same as partner. What's the problem you want to solve?
Always.
Right? So it's not about implementing Agile or SAFE. That's not really important.
No.
It's how do we achieve the business results? How do we achieve the goals? And when we have that understanding, then Agile and SAFE is a very powerful tool to create that success.
Yeah, just taking like best practices that applies to your organization, your culture, your people.
Exactly, and I think you need to adjust it to that, to your culture, that you get the real benefits, but also measure what you want to achieve. What is your goal? How do you measure it? How do you baseline it so that you can really show the progress?
It's important. Kind of metrics and measures, and I love the metric section of the Scaled Agile framework.
And that's, by the way, also one of the biggest mistakes I've seen. I see a lot of organizations starting with SAFE, but they didn't have a clear understanding, alignment about the goals. And they don't know how they measure the success, so there's no focus, and then the results are maybe not there. So have a clear understanding what the goals are is really critical.
Thanks. 4 months ago, we had here at our Alpha Training Center the visit of Chris James. You know him.
I know him really well.
He's Scaled Agile CIO. And as I told you, Chris told us about even if you are not a technology, information technology enterprise, you can always get benefits from continuous deployment to release on demand. it provides us with a competitive advantage and faster time to market, as you mentioned.
And you change from what can we deliver at what time, which is today's practice. Most of the time development is deciding when can we deliver a new product, to more we can deliver all the time, but it's a customer or a market decision when is the right time to release a new version. So that's what we are doing, for example, at Scale Agile. We have one of our products is different trainings, you know, the whole set of training we have, role specific. We could potentially deliver an updated version of the training every couple of days when we have changes. But you as trainers would probably not like that, or the customers would not like that. So it's now a customer decision. When is it the right time to release something new to the market? When is the market ready? And that's a big change and a big benefit for the business side out there.
Yeah, value stream, as you mentioned before.
Exactly, so really important topic.
Okay, thank you. The same line, one of the key elements of transformation are, as you mentioned, the top management commitment.
Yeah.
How would you recommend, how would you tell to leaders that are still struggling with the fact of decentralized decision making? I mean, how could you encourage them to embrace this change?
Yeah. And that's actually a really good question. And it was a scary part for me at the beginning because I was a traditional project manager. I was a line manager, command and control. And this phrase of decentralized decision making scared me a lot at the beginning. So I had to go through that transformation as well. So I know how a lot of the people out there are feeling with those challenges. What I've learned, it's a lot about fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Actually, I used something similar, a technique that I'm using for coaching and mentoring at the moment. I used that before because as a project manager, you're often overloaded. You are the one that are working on the weekends, nights, and longer in the evenings.
It happens,
right?
yeah.
Happens sometimes, happened to me as well. So I started to create a list of activities and tasks and decisions I'm doing. And decentralized decision making does not mean move everything away, but starting to what are decisions that I need to take and what are decisions maybe lower in the priority that I can give away. And with that, I create a lot of speed because if people can take this responsibility and understand the goals and the vision, and that's why the transparency and alignment is so important to understand what is the goal. Then they make the decision similar to what I would do. And there's a really funny story in my team at Scale Agile. So I try to communicate a lot, and that's the role of the leaders. And I heard some situations where the team started to think about what would Michael do or say, or what questions would he ask? So I'm not there, but they start to, by me asking questions, they start to think in a different way. And that's the role of leaders and managers, and part of decentralized decision making is not giving all the decisions away. It's helping people to understand the whole context and the goals and enable them to make the decisions that are supporting those goals. And that's why I believe decentralized decision making was scary to me. It helped me, and that's the recommendation. If you don't understand what it means, it's really hard. The unknown is scary, and that's creating fear. So that's why we train the executive leaders and coach them to say, you don't lose control. It's just a different way of working. And that helps a lot of people to understand and make that transition. So recommendation, go to a training, learn more, understand what it means. It's not just, all the decisions are made by somebody else.
That's great. Great, it's been a great advice. We'll take it into our way of more because it is clear with your example. And well, organizations are made of people.
Exactly.
And trust and commitment are main values of our high-performing teams.
And then it's communication, and this is about change. So it's not a transformation project, it's a transformation journey, and organizational change management is a big part of it. So we need to actively communicate what's going on. What does it mean? How will that change? What is the impact on individuals as well? So having the right level of communication is absolutely important in those transformation initiatives.
Thank you for your powerful questions. What is your perspective about the evolution of Agile, and what would be its possible impact in a country like Mexico?
Yeah. Really good question. I think agility will evolve. As we discussed at the beginning, it's a lot in IT, software, technology, but we see a big tendency around the globe now going into different areas. Sales, marketing, human resources really have end-to-end and cover the whole business. So creating real business agility with organizational agility. Because if you have only one part, that doesn't solve the problem. You need to have end-to-end business agility. And that's what I believe, or what I see is happening out there. Companies started small, expanding within the same business unit, across business units, and I mentioned before, using SAFe, agility as an operating model. I think that will be the standard going forward. But also a culture of inspect and adapt, which is built into SAFe, for example, that we have this plan, do, check, adjust cycle. It's really important because situations will change, the environment will change, and we need to be able to support that, and leaders are responsible to build organizations to support that. I think specifically like what is happening in Mexico, I think it will help organizations to face the challenging market, global market out there, because a lot of organizations are changing to this agile way, can deliver value to the customer faster, more customer focused, deliver new products faster, and I strongly believe that companies here are doing the same and will need to do even more to be competitive out there in market and be successful.
And that's why implementation, having and following an implementation roadmap is so important, so you don't get lost in the road and.
Exactly. I think it's good to have a transformation plan, to have a transformation journey plan, to have a clear understanding where are we heading, what is really the goal, how do we measure the goal, and then be able to communicate that as well. So I have more and more SAFe customers that are creating a draft case study very early in the process where, and that's a question I'm asking, how would you describe your success in 1 year from now or in 2 years from now? How would you like to communicate that? And really focus the goals as well, understand how they are measuring it, and then show the progress and communicate the progress internally, but more and more also externally. Because there's a big competition out there for the smartest people in the world. So everybody wants them to work for you as a company, right? So how can we attract them? And we can attract them by showing how we are working and how involved they are and how much engagement we have in the company.
Inspiring people.
Inspiring people, because that's generations are changing. Millennials want to know more about what's the goal, what's in for me, what's the purpose, what's the difference I can make out there in the world. And I think that's where organizations need to go and communicate in the language of that community they are targeting.
Yeah, people need to feel part of this transformation.
Yeah, and also the products that the company is building. Because I'm working at Scaled Agile because I believe that SAFe helps a lot of organizations, and I have proof of that. I have people coming back after some time sharing their stories and how it helped them and how it made them happier. And I think this belief in what the product or solution or service brings is very important for people to be engaged and have a purpose, because we spend a lot of time at work.
Yeah, and getting to the tipping point. Right?
Yeah.
With all this change management, organization moves forward.
And that is really hard to have. That change is always hard for us. So what we need to make is change easy for us as an organization. And that's where leaders have a big impact to make change small. Because if change is small, we can make it easier. So let's constantly change. One of the big differences I hear from organizations earlier when we did traditional project management, I did these wonderful lessons learned sessions where we had spent a lot of time with the project team to document what was wrong, what should we do different next year. What happened to those documents? We stored them and never really take action on them because the change was too big. So what we see now in Agile is let's make a small improvements every 2 weeks in an iteration. Doesn't need to be big, really small. After 1 year, you have 25 small improvements. And over time, that makes a big difference. So it's just changing everything into smaller parts, more focus, more outcomes at the end.
It's not like a huge project. It's like continuous improvement every day in the way that we communicate, in the way that we work, in the way that we deliver value.
Exactly. And I think also innovation built in, because that's the second challenge. Organizations nowadays, they need to innovate all the time. Sometimes innovation is happening in one specific group or at one time. That needs to be part of the daily work. Everybody needs to be involved in innovation because then you can innovate as a company. And innovation doesn't always need to be really big. It can be small innovation like the improvements. And if you build that into the DNA of your organization, of the people, you really create a lot of values for your customers.
Innovation is not just an area department, innovation is everywhere.
Everywhere. And I think that's hard to build and that takes some effort and that's getting to the tipping point to have that understanding and then see how can you implement that in an organization. That's interesting then to see the results after some time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Mark. So, what's next? What should the next step be? What will be the future about agility?
So I think first we need to be here and what do we need to do? We need to start with, in the safe terms, an agile release train. So that's a team of agile teams, 50 to 125 people to build that. And then the next step is to scale that up into large solutions in portfolio and organizational agility. I think that's when we look at the future, is really running the agility as the basic DNA of a company, really end to end. I'm pretty sure there is no separation between business and IT anymore. It's like, we are a value stream, this is our customer, this is what the customer wants, this is how we create maximum value for our customers. And I think everything what needs to be there to deliver that customer value, that's where we are heading. Maybe it's not called agility anymore in the future, but it needs to be a continuous improvement approach. And business agility is just the way how we are doing business and what we want to achieve. So, but I think short term we'll go into all the different disciplines in an organization, marketing, sales, people operations, HR. That's the next big step, that agility goes really across the organization and it's the basic runtime system, operating system for enterprises.
For what you've seen in Mexico, what will be your recommendation?
Where to start? So I think start where you are. Be encouraged to start with somewhere where you can make an impact. Start with a group of about 50 to 125 people, because that will give you good results. Prove the results and then expand it from there. One of the biggest challenges in the transformation journey is find the right pace for change. And everybody who is working in the change environment knows communicating and find the right speed. Because if you go too fast, you lose the organization. If you go too slow, you don't see the change. So finding the right space and building those quick wins to say, oh, it's working, then the next level, and changes at the beginning often a push system. We need to push for the change, and you want to turn that in a pull. We want to change because the different business unit the different group had amazing results, and that's how you can turn it around.
Yeah, it will be a
positive.
pull.
Exactly, and that's, you know that as a consultant, when you start to slow down an organization with change, then you know they are really at the tipping point, and you can slow it down just to find the right pace to deliver outcomes.
Yeah, quick wins is always like to get a commitment with all the organization out there, top management.
Exactly. Have buy-in from the top management is really important. And I sometimes go back to the house of Lean from the Toyota production system. On top we have value. That's the goal, outcomes. But everything starts with the foundation, and that's leadership.
Yeah.
If we don't have leadership support, it's very hard to be successful. I actually never seen a successful transformation journey without leadership support. And that's why leaders, especially proactive leaders, play such an important role, to be proactive, to be taught themselves, sit in a training, better understand it, read more books, and then help the organization along the way to make this change.
Right. Finally, we know that you are passionate helicopter pilot. So we would like to ask you, how do you think, what do you think it will be like the relationship between learning agile practices and learning a new skill, a new way of doing things, or pursue your passion?
That's actually a really good and really hard question. I tried to combine it with some experience I had when I was flying helicopters. I like to fly passenger on a glacier in Switzerland. So it's a quiet place, you don't hear anything, and people like to be up there for some time, and just it's quiet around. And I had a group of people where we had that plan, 90 minutes flight with a landing up there. And flying helicopter, it's a lot of preparation, because you have real flight preparation. The customers will be happy, right? If there is good planning and preparation behind. So we had a very clear path, and then we started, and the weather changed. So we had to fly a different route. So I had a very specific plan, and that's what organizations have as well. But the environment is changing, and then I need to be able to adjust to that plan. And by flying into a different area, they saw a mountain which was really fascinating to them. So there's a mountain in Switzerland where you have a train, and there's windows in a big mountain that you can see.
Yeah, I've
and
seen
you've seen that? Yeah. And then they wanted to see that and fly there. So we changed the plan based on the weather and the customer needs. And I think that's what agility is about, right? So it's business agility. What do the customers want to have? What's the demand, or what could be a potential demand, and then react. Of course you have a plan, you always have a plan, but be able to react to the change and the change demand on there. And I think that's one of the biggest differences or similarities I see flying, lots of planning, but then adjusting to the environment, what's happening, and adjusting to customer demands and customer needs.
And it's fun.
It is. And then delivering more value to the customer. And I think every company out there, customers being customer-centric, they spend money with you as a company if they like what you're doing and if you can provide them some additional value. So they need to be on top of our heads to deliver value to them.
Amazing. You sound so enthusiastic that I'm start thinking about getting my pilot license.
Okay, I can give you some
next time. Next time. Okay, well, thank you. We're going to take a break, just a couple of minutes to give your questions to Michael. We're coming back.
Thank you.
Thank you. last week, we received many questions for you. So
Good.
let's go with the first one. Carlos asks, what would you see the technology impact on young people arriving to their jobs? It will make them more productive or more social?
Also a really good question, Carlos. I think there's a lot of technology is dominating our world. So we have the phones, it's distracting us, but it's also a very powerful tool. And I think we need to build technology into the way of working. And I think we see that with SAFE, it's really an environment, Agile in general, that helps young people because it's how they work. It's actually really fascinating when I'm training young people that don't know the traditional way of working, so they cannot understand how we worked in the past with a more waterfall approach. For them it's just normal, that's their daily life, using technology, interacting, communicating with each other, and focusing on values. So it's actually supporting the younger generation because it's the way of doing work and how they are used to work, with a lot of collaboration and interaction. And I believe that's one of the successes of SAFE, the PI planning, the program increment planning, where we plan for the next 3 months, where everybody is involved. So at Scale Agile, we fly everybody in around the globe. We are in one room for 2 days, and we have a lot of conversation where, we could have some remote conversation, but there's so much value in being face to face and talk to each other and have this interface. We'll have technology afterwards to communicate, but for this planning phase, it's still really important to be together face to face.
And that's about the cross-functional teams.
Exactly.
It's richer.
And that's what you need. So we have complex systems. So one small team or an individual cannot build a complete solution. So we need to have these cross-functional feature teams. Everybody's bringing in some skills, and then we facilitate them in a way that it delivers value to the customer fast. And that's the fascinating part. And that's when young people especially see the purpose and they like to work in such an environment.
Thank you. Let's move to the next one. Dulce asks, many organizations are faced with doubts about when their team's members adopt a new role on an agile framework, and afterwards they are a bit lost on where do they belong in the organization. In this regard, how can a team member find his new place in the organization?
Also a really good question, which I actually get a lot out there. So if we change, what is my role? What am I doing in this way? And that's a big part of the transformation team, the Lean Agile Center of Excellence, or PMO that is driving this transformation, is communicating, this is where we are now, this is the new one, and what will change. And this change often offers some completely new opportunities for people. Like in SAFE, there are no project managers anymore. Sounds scary first, I don't have a job anymore. But project manager is associated with some skills. And maybe I like to experiment with some new things. So a project manager can have about 4 different roles in an agile world based on the experience he or she brings with her and what he wants to do or she wants to do. So there are more options to also evolve and have a personal development plan. And that's part of a transformation, to look at that individuals and provide different development plans and roadmaps and see what does that mean. Because you learned a lot as a project manager. You have specific skills. Those skills don't go away. They might be applied in a slightly different way, but for the success, it's important that we show what are different paths and communicate what does that mean and how do the new roles look like. And I like to go back into the training part, because similar to the leaders, people are scared and there's fear if I don't know what it means. So the training helps. We have a new way of working, new values, new principles. What does that mean? The specific role-based training really helps to better understand what does that mean for my role. So I have time to learn and adjust my role to the new way of working, and that helps to create the success afterwards.
Yeah, for example, a product owner continues on its improvement and in this transformation road, new road.
Exactly. And that's why it's important for the transformation team to provide this guidance and this advice and this training that people don't have fear or take some of the fear away. Communication is really important in those transformation journeys.
Transparency, communications.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let's go for the next one. What are the best practices in SAFe?
So first of all, I don't believe in best practices. There are a lot of good practices, and based on the situation, different good practices work. When we look at SAFe, it's a basis of values and principles, and SAFe itself provides a lot of the practices. Maybe the question is related to how to apply it, and that's where we have the SAFe implementation roadmap. How do you start? How do you get to that starting point? There's not only one way of doing it. We know that one size fits all doesn't always work. But this, what we have in the implementation roadmap, and you can find that on the framework, is a proven path. If you follow that, that's repeatable, and we have seen a lot of success. So one of the good practices is you need to train your managers, executives, and leaders they know what it is they must do, so that they are involved in the transformation. Another good practice is start with a 3-day session. Start with 2 days of leading SAFe with the leaders, and then add 1 day of value stream identification workshop. You don't need to decide to go SAFe or not go SAFe. Just spend 3 days. You learn some basic principles. You get a common terminology, and then you talk about how can you implement that in your specific organization. So after the 3 days, you walk out with knowledge, a certification, because there's certification involved, and a concrete plan how you can start and where you would start to get success. And then you can take the go, no-go decision afterwards. So that's the initial step. And then try to start your Agile release train. ART, it's a team of Agile teams, 5 to 12 teams, 50 to 125 people, and you will get results already during the planning. And then you start to create these wins, these positive results, which you can then base your whole transformation on. So that's good practices in the implementation of SAFe. Start with 3 days, 2 days training, 1 day of how does that apply to us, and then start your first Agile release train, get experience, and inspect and adapt from there.
Yeah, and you have like the same language.
Exactly. That's, by the way, one of the biggest advantages of SAFe, that people speak a common language. Also one of the reasons why we haven't translated the framework and training, not at the moment, because we got some really strong feedback. As soon as you start to translate the terms on the framework, we have more misunderstanding, and one of the benefits is really having a common terminology and a common language. And then consultants like you come in that deliver the training and the consulting and mentoring in local language to help them to better understand. But having a common terminology is really powerful for big, large organizations.
Yeah, and even if you met a college in India or China.
Yeah, you have you can talk.
Yeah.
And you know, and you can also, when you talk to your customers, a lot of organizations are working with suppliers. If the supplier is using the same language as you, you can plug and play. You don't waste a lot of time in finding common ground. Oh, my understanding of this is, well, oh, I had a different understanding. So it allows you to reduce a lot of waste by having a common understanding.
Yeah, communications.
Oh yeah, helps.
Yeah. Let's look at the questions. You talk about thinking long-term. How can organizations start building a transformation journey? What will be the 3 basic questions they should be asking themselves? I think that it's related with the one
just
that
what we talked about. First, ask the question, why do you want to change?
Yeah.
Why do you want to be agile? Why do you want to do safe?
Goals, yeah.
Yeah, what are the goals? Then ask yourself the question, how do you measure that? And then create the baseline. So that's the basic starting question. The next question is then, where do we start? And that's the 3-day session we talked about. What's the best place to start? Because you want to create results. And you typically want to use some challenges, not the easy ones. Take the ones that are really challenges, that are problems. Try to drive change there and prove that this is working. And then you repeat that success. So those are really the important questions. Start at the beginning with the why. Why do you want to change? How do you measure it?
Well, great. Let's go. Our asks, specifically talking about SAFe, what's next for SAFe? How do you plan to include the evolution of agility into the framework?
Also a really good question about the evolution of SAFe. When you know the history of SAFe, we started with version 1 and we have continuous improvement. When we learn something new, we build it in the framework, and we are always working on a new version with all the new learnings. So really integrating all the parts of business agility is a big part. We are always listening to our customers as well. So when we prioritize what we are doing in the framework, what kind of training material we are creating, we are asking our customers. At the SAFe Summit, our big conference, that's when we get ideas prioritized, and that helps us a lot to improve and move the framework to the next level to support the customers. What are the biggest demands? So last time we invested a lot into more how do we build portfolio management, and we built a completely new training, Lean portfolio management around that. Questions about large solutions. How do you SAFe if you build airplanes, aircrafts? And at the moment we are investing a lot into product management and solution management, because oftentimes I've seen a lot of companies, they're struggling with product management, really get the customer input and with that role. So we developed new content, new IP, new training, really about agile product and solution management to help organizations. So we are constantly listening, what is the market demanding? Agile budgeting, thinking more ahead, have horizons of planning. How does Lean Agile budgeting work? So more the business agility part end to end. I think that's the direction where it's going, but we are always listening to feedback and our customers, what would help them.
Bidirectional communication.
Yeah, it's basically what we teach. Listen to your customer and integrate that in your products, and that's what we are doing as well.
Okay, let's go to the next one. How do you plan to improve tools and practices related to better understand customers and become a more customer-centric organization?
Also an excellent question, and I think that goes just back to the last discussion we had.
Yeah.
Product management, how to be customer-focused, have design thinking, involve your customers. And you will see that in the new training we have. So providing more guidance there. I think that's one of the areas where we invest a lot of time and energy to provide more of this guidance to really understand the customer needs, build the product management role, equip the product manager with the right mindset. And I think in SAFe we have the product owners, we have the product managers, and we have solution manager, different responsibility for different challenges, and giving them the right tools, practices that they can be successful. That's a big focus that we are having at the moment to better support them.
More tools and knowledge.
And tools and knowledge for them to make a better job or make their job easier and really provide the right feedback from the customer to development and then create the right product.
The right toolkit.
Right toolkit, exactly.
Raul asks, being a millennial, I'm delighted to be into an agile approach. However, some organizations are just taking partial steps in agile transformation. Do you think it's fair? what will happen to organizations that are only committing halfway?
Really challenging questions. Yes, I see a lot of organizations, step-by-step approach, that's most of the organizations are doing that. And building that success and taking the next level. Organizations that don't go on, they will have a problem because over time they're just too slow and the competitors will overtake them. But change is really hard, every type of change. And if you have worked in a company for 40 years and then you need to change the behavior of the companies used to work in a certain way, we need to build steps an organization can take. And I think it's the same as you are walking upstairs. If the steps are too high for an organization or an individual, you are not going to take them. So, and that's where millennials can also help to take away some of the fear and help people to build the right size step and pull them up, build that trust that it is working. And that's about the change. And as I said, it's not about a one-time transformation to agile. It's about the transformation journey. There's always new things we are learning, and we want to build this learning organization that can adjust to all the challenges that are out there. But I think really millennials can help a lot in that process because it's in their DNA, Raul. So what you mentioned, so help people to better understand, build that trust, also try to understand empathy. What is the experience of the other people that are in the company for some time and are used to work in a different way? They are not just like that, they were trained and conditioned like that. So how can we help them to change and build bridges on that? And that's where every individual plays a really big role in that change.
Yeah, and young people have the energy to pull up all the organization.
Exactly, and really helping everybody to be involved and also try to understand where the other people are coming from, because not everything was bad what was in the past. There's a lot of good stuff, so try to learn from that, try to understand what happened and really be on that transformation journey together.
Good question, Raul. Last one. Which is your best elevator pitch for someone who wants to start a journey transformation with SAFE?
Best part is great results. You have a problem. What is the problem? How do you try to solve that? And then start. Get trained, get a good understanding, what are the principles and value behind, and then just start. Get experience. And that's one of the questions when I talk to executive is, can you give me 2 days to better understand what it is? 2 days in 1 year, it's actually nothing. We saw more time in escalation. So I was in several leadership executive roles. I don't know how much time I spent in fixing problems and handling escalations. So much more than 1 week or even more. So what if we turn that around and invest some time to avoid escalations in future and turn that into positive energy? So my big ask is, what are the challenges? Are those results that could help you? Are you willing to invest some time to better understand and see how this could help your organization?
Just start.
Take the risk.
Take the risk.
And don't be afraid. It's always about experimenting, learning, especially leaders. They need to lead the way of experimenting and trying something new. Managers are the people that are just maintaining status quo. Leaders are the people that are going ahead. They are taking some risk and moving the organization in a direction. And the companies that have real leaders, they will be successful in the marketplace.
Just start and get better every step.
Exactly. Don't be perfect. You will never be perfect.
Never.
Just continuously improve. And that's where you get the value from.
Yeah, that's why the word is evolution.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. I think that it's all of our questions. We are running out of time.
Already?
So
time is flying,
it's all like a helicopter. Yeah, it's been a wonderful talk. Thank you for being here, and it's a pleasure to having you sharing all this information and all this experience. Hope to see you soon. Hope to see you in Boulder at the DevOps.
Yeah, maybe next week. Yeah. Thank you very much for the time, and thank you everybody who listened, and looking forward to hear from you.
Thank you. Well, for our audience, thank you for being here. We appreciate your time and attention. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Please contact us. Share some of the challenges you are facing. Also, your successful histories. We will be pleased to be part of this transformation journey. See you next time. Thank you.